Welcome, everybody, to Inside Boxing Daily on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Inside Boxing Daily is brought to you by, as always, the Retired Boxers Foundation with Alex Ramos and Jackie Richardson. I am your host for Inside Boxing Daily, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I would like to welcome to the show, as always, my trusty co-host, my Robin to my Batman, Jeremiah Preisser. How you doing, Jeremiah?
I'm doing well, man. Anytime we get to talk boxing, I'm doing okay. So, hey, as always, man, let's get this show on the road.
All right, so we're going to start off with a topic that we have not addressed yet, and I think it's something that really needs to be addressed because the more and more I see these articles, Jeremiah, the more and more I think that Deontay Wilder fans are the biggest bitches that ever graced the face of the earth. Because if I see one more thing about a glove, especially a picture of a glove from the first fight, being Fury cheating in the second fight, I'm going to pull out what left I got in my hair.
Yeah, no, it's enough to send you over the top. I mean, it really is. I mean, and it's, listen, any boxer who has a large following, you know, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, etc. I mean, there are a bunch of sore losers whenever their guy gets beat. But, you know, this thing with Wilder, I mean, in his laundry list of excuses, and then all of a sudden these, again, I can't remember what the acronym is. You know, it's, you know, they're pretty well known to the boxing public, though. What is it, the LDBC? You know, these guys. I mean, it's like
What's
they can't.
What's the LDBC?
What is it called? Okay, yeah, there it is. So it's the Lions Den boxing community, and I'm not familiar with the term. Like, I don't know if it's just a group of like-minded individuals.
I think the Lions Den is usually, isn't it like a homosexual, like, dirty store?
Swinger party or something? Yeah, it's like a homosexual swinger. Yeah, it's something like that. No, all I'm aware of, again, I don't really pay attention to these guys because it's just not my cup of tea, never has been. And you know, they're playing a certain brand there, and they've been riding on Deontay Wilder's coattails for a long time now. And now that, you know, their king is crushed, it's like they've got to resort to all these nonsensical tactics to try and make up for it. I mean, you just can't accept a loss being a loss. And the bad thing about this whole glove thing that we're referring to is I've seen some smart people talk about it, and some of them are like, oh, well, that does look a bit fishy. And I'm like, it doesn't, man. It doesn't. Listen, to Regis Prograis' credit, he called these people, he said, because some channel, some Twitter account tweeted about it, and it was somebody talking about the glove issue, and he said people don't know shit about boxing. He doesn't buy it. I mean, the process at which these people, the lengths they go to check the gloves and make sure that everything is up on the up and up now, especially after the Margarito incident. Dude, you're just not pulling. I mean, the thing with Margarito and his trainer was like again, this was, I believe this was Margarito's trainer's testimony, is that he pulled an old, was it gauze or something like that to put on his hand wraps, something like that. But the point being is that ever since that happened, you know, these officials have gone to extra lengths to make sure that we're getting fair play here. And they even talked about it before the fight that, what was it? And again, I know these people talked about
or something where they were worried about whether they just got there or not. Mm-hmm. Nobody tried them on yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had 3 different pairs for both the fighters, and they got to pick which ones they wanted. And I remember one of the commentators saying that he had never seen anything like that before. Now, of course, this cheating thing is actually, you know, the first fight. It's just silly. There's a video out there. I saw it on one of the videos saying that Fury was a cheater, or insinuating that maybe he was, of Jack Reese testing the gloves beforehand. He walks, you should check it out. He walks up to Tyson Fury and touches the glove from top to bottom, looks at the front, looks at the back, assumes everything is perfectly fine. I mean, and if really Fury was trying to cheat, somebody said, that maybe during the course of the fight, they slipped him down a little bit in an effort to punch where the knuckle or punch where like bring your knuckles down to where the padding would be a bit thinner. Listen, if that was the case, how come nobody, not the ref, not any of the officials, Tyson Fury himself, right? I went back and looked at the post-fight, interactions. Fury didn't seem an ounce worried that anybody was going to find anything on his gloves. Him and Wilder, they're hugging, they're talking to each other. He wears the gloves for a long time. It's stupid, man. It's such a reach, and it's pathetic, really. I mean, you're compounding Deontay Wilder's excuses with stuff that he never said himself. I mean, it's just bogus, man.
And then today they're posting a video where or not a video, but a tweet from Mauricio Solomon saying that it looked like Fury was going to test positive, and it was from 4 years ago. And you still have people posting on there, like our friend William Pounds, who's been on the show before to try to defend his asinine thoughts on boxing. And William, if you're out there, you can come on anytime you want to discuss this. But he said he was dirty, even though it was old, that we still have to wait till the sample or the test comes back. Now, wouldn't the test be back well before now?
Well, maybe not. I mean, you would like to assume so, but there's a chance. I mean, there's been some pretty shady shit that's gone on in boxing. I mean, I remember, who was it? Marco Huck or something. I can't remember who exactly it was, but it was I think a German-based fighter. And it took like 2 months before we got the sample back. But yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a possibility. But you can't insinuate that he's cheating, if we don't have any reason to believe so. It's just you know what it is. I mean, William, he's a big Deontay Wilder fan. We've had him on the show to debate the merits of Floyd Mayweather and Sugar Ray Robinson's resumes. That went over well, I think, for us. But yeah, I mean, again, dude, they're just grasping at straws to deal with a loss. I don't understand, and I really think that, listen, we all know that this was deeper than just a boxing match for a lot of people. Tons of these guys were emotionally attached to the fight, and listen. A lot of us become fans of fighters, and when they lose, it's I don't want to call it crushing, but it takes the wind out of the sails, and you're getting a lot of that, a lot of sore losers here. It sucks, man. I mean, we'll get the third fight. Hopefully, we'll get fair play in that one too. Fury kicks his ass, and then we don't have to deal with it anymore.
All right, and if Fury kicks his ass, Eddie Hearn said that he wants to set up Joshua Fury for December. Josh was predicting a knockout victory over his mandatory Kubrat Pulev in 3 months on June the 20th. Had to count the months real quick. I'm close, I think. I don't know if I'm on it, but I'm close. So
Getting there.
So when we look at Joshua Pulev, to really sell this fight, especially for Americans, I mean, Fury is going to knock the shit out of Wilder again. And after that happens, is it kind of not imperative that Joshua, instead of just boxing his way to a boring 12-round decision like he did with Ruiz, needs to make a statement in this fight?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair. I mean, after, because there was some criticism leveled against him because of the way he fought Ruiz in the second fight. Personally, I didn't mind it. He did what he had to do. He made adjustments, and I think that in itself is praiseworthy. I mean, because we look at, and this is why I think Anthony Joshua is a better fighter than Deontay Wilder. I don't want to venture too far from the central topic here, but the fact that Joshua was able to adapt showed that he had some versatility. I mean, do we expect Deontay Wilder to get on his toes and box and jab and move any better than he did in the first fight? No, we don't. Anyways, I do think that he does need to make a statement, and I think this fight does present an opportunity for him to do so. Pulev is a quality operator. I mean, he had a long amateur background. He's been around for a while. He's been in and out outside the top 10 for 7 years or so right now. It's been a while, because when did Klitschko flat him? 2013, I believe. So I think Yeah, so I think he's been in the top 10 roughly 7, 8 years. And again, in and out. I don't think he's currently ranked. I don't know. I'd have to take a look.
Well, he's ranked
But
number one, or he wouldn't be getting a mandatory title
yeah,
shot,
right.
right?
Yeah. And we know with the IBF, he's been waiting for his shot for a long time. That's why he's been taking a couple soft touches. He is a good fighter. He's got a quality jab. But the reason why this presents an opportunity for Joshua to get into people's hearts and minds a little bit better is because Pulev is not a big puncher. And he's a little bit older. I think he's 37 now. So if he goes out there and knocks Pulev out, I think it's a quality win. It's nothing special, but so what? I mean, all we really want is Fury versus Joshua. That's the fight we need. So, I hope he wins.
Yeah, Pulev sucks. I'll just say it right now. So if he beats him, it's going to be bad. Because when you look at his record, to get his title shot, the best guy he beat was Tony Thompson, who he beat by unanimous decision. After Klitschko basically castrated him in front of the entire world, he then beat an old Maurice Harris. He won a split decision over Derek Chisora. That's his best win. He beat Sam Peter, who was like 73 then. Kevin Johnson, who was way past his prime. He beat Fury. Unfortunately, it was Hughie Fury. Then he beat Bogdan Dinu and Rydell Booker. And Rydell Booker took him
old as hell too.
Yeah, so just by his name, he's always been old. I mean, who else could be named Rydell Booker? You can't be 2 years old. Hey, little Rydell Booker. Doesn't work that way. So this is a shit fight.
Yeah, again, well, when you watch the video of these guys,
it should be.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you never know. I mean, imagine if Pulev won. It's not crazy. It's not crazy for Pulev to win, but the problem is he's just squeaking by the best opposition since he got flattened by Klitschko. And make no mistake, he was competitive against Klitschko until he got flattened with that really nice left hook. But yeah, he's just like getting by Chisora. I think. Man, I can barely remember the Fury fight because I know that was a stinker too. I think that was pretty close. I mean, he's squeaking by fringe level opposition. So what do you expect here? You expect Joshua to get the job done. Hopefully he gets a knockout. And again, I mean, to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just I hate hearing the word mandatory because we all know it's a bunch of political nonsense. But whatever, man. I don't care. If Fury gets Wilder in July, like they're talking about, beats him again. Hey, man, the door's open. That fight's going to be huge. So I'm just like, let's get on with it.
All right, Gervonta Tank Davis and Leo Santa Cruz, according to Mike Coppinger, are in advanced discussions about a fight in the summer in L.A. Now, name-wise, this sounds good, Jeremiah, but Tank Davis, you know he's going to weigh more than what he needs to weigh anyways. And I think Santa Cruz is tailor-made for Davis. He's looked, even at 126, Santa Cruz wasn't a big puncher. And I think he's going to have a hard time getting Tank Davis's respect at 135.
Yeah, I think so too. I believe you're right. The only... I mean, it seems like a calculated move. Yeah, surprise, right? Floyd Mayweather and his promotional entity. It seems like a calculated move because you're bringing Santa Cruz up another division, and at Santa Cruz in his last fight. What can you really make of that? Not much. I mean, he was fighting a guy who I think by BoxRec was ranked, I think 101 or something like that, so it didn't really provide us with much. And Santa Cruz has always had pretty good height for his division. The only thing that gives me pause is like my initial feelings is that Davis will probably whoop him. He'll probably be too fast, too big, hit too hard, etc. The only thing that gives me slight pause now is seeing, Gervonta Davis throw like 20 punches around against a faded Gamboa. Santa Cruz at 135 is going to be tougher than Gamboa. Yeah, it's like that. That's maybe what I think happens. Like maybe Davis shoots his wad early in the fight. He's reduced to something like, 20, 30 punches around. He gets outworked and he loses a close decision. I mean, it's possible. I don't think again, my initial feelings is Davis should be too big, too strong, too fast, etc. But I don't know. I mean, it's just we don't really know what Davis has. I mean, his best win is Jose Pedraza, which is a good win, but that was years and years ago, and nobody's really been able to take him the distance. I mean, there's still questions that need to be answered. I mean, when he gets in the dirt, I mean, is he going to fight back? Does he have the heart? I don't know, man. Will Santa Cruz provide that? I mean, I lean towards no, but maybe.
Well, and the other problem is Santa Cruz hasn't faced a quality fighter in 3 years, really, since his close 12-round majority decision over Carl Frampton. So
Yeah,
I
and
think this
that was
is
January of 2017 too. So it's almost 4 years. No, it's over 4 years.
no 2017 to
Oh yeah,
2020
yeah.
is
Sorry,
3 years.
my math sucks. Sorry.
Yes. All right. So I even forgot what I was going to say after that. But I think it's calculated because I think it's safe for Javante, and all he does is take safe moves. And for Cruz, I think it's just a cash out where maybe they get lucky, he puts up a better fight than they think, and maybe he gets 2 cash outs.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not. These are two guys that like I've had mixed feelings about. Santa Cruz, I liked when he fought Frampton. Those were quality fights, and then he didn't bother he didn't bother honoring his word for the third fight. And Gervonta Davis, like, dude,
I just got a message from somebody on Spreaker. Go ahead. I'll read it in a minute.
okay, yeah, no, it's like Gervonta Davis. Initially I didn't really care for him, and then he did the Thriller entrance, and then I thought that was kind of cool, and then he has the Gamboa performance. I mean, I don't know, man. I want the best guys to fight the best guys, and this doesn't qualify.
All right. I'm telling it like it is on Spreaker, which you can message us on Spreaker. You can message us on Twitter at Grueling Truth if you're on the old Twitter. But he says Tank Davis will just keep fighting X 115 and 118-pound guys until he gets exposed by somebody his own size. Even the hood rat bitch that was sitting next to him that was choking that he was choking looks about 115 to 118.
So yeah, he's even like calculating his girlfriend sizes to make sure that they're within beating range. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, dude, it seemed. I mean, it sucks, man. I mean, you'll hear some of his defenders say, "Oh, well, Gervonta Davis is still young." So what, man? He's been a top 10 ranked fighter for what, 4, almost 5 years now, I believe. If you look at when he first broke into the top 10, I think that was 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, you cannot consider yourself a contender and just do this sort of stuff. Again, I understand that he's young. They're trying to bring him along, but this just isn't the way you do it.
All right. Jed says, "What is the point? This guy's the reverse Manny Pacquiao, trying fight people in lower weight classes. Is Gervonta's career and exercise an overhyping, then milking the hype, whilst doing precisely nothing? Such a weird situation." And then William chimes in, "Cherry picking weight bully bitch." A lot of bitches tonight on this.
Yeah. We're getting some guys fired up with this topic.
Yeah, I guess people don't like Gervonta Davis. He seems like a really nice guy when he's not beating up women, grabbing them by the hair, though.
Yeah, or beating up small guys, beating up horse jockeys.
That's mean, right? You call them horse jockeys.
Yeah,
I'm friends with some of those horse jockeys. All right, how about this one? This comes from Regis Prograis. If he beats Maurice Hooker, he wants Mikey Garcia. Would you give him much of a chance against Mikey Garcia?
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting fight. I mean, the thing about it, Mikey Garcia, is he looked pretty good at 147. He doesn't look like an elite level operator. I mean, I think that's pretty much everybody. I don't want to say everybody. There are outliers who are like, yeah, he's going to be able to do this. Actually, I posted on my Casual Mondays, which you guys can go to the website and look at. There was a guy who said that version of Mikey Garcia could have beaten Spence in like 4 rounds or something. I don't know. It was stupid.
Maybe
but,
he meant that he could have won 4 rounds.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know about that. But either way, it's just not going to happen. I mean, that Garcia is not an improved version. Errol Spence is not Jesse Vargas. Vargas is a quality operator, whatever. But I do think it just depends. I mean, like if Garcia gets beat up, because Manny Pacquiao seems like he's in his crosshairs. If, Pacquiao goes out there and beats Mikey Garcia up, he'll probably have to move down to 140. And I think Prograis, I mean, he was nip and tuck with Josh Taylor, who I think is clearly the number one guy at the division. He's a southpaw. He's learning. As I stated on a previous show, I think he should only get better because, I mean, he is what 31, 32 now, if I'm not mistaken. So he's pretty much near his peak. But I think with the Josh Taylor experience, he should get slightly better. And seeing as Taylor, I think, is the number one guy in the division, I think he could hang with Mikey Garcia. I think that would be an interesting scrap. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I'd prefer to see Josh Taylor versus Mikey Garcia first, unless something happens in the meantime. Maybe Taylor moves up, Prograis ends up being the number one guy in the division. I don't know. We'll have to see when we get to down the road, where they are at, where they're at in their points of their career. But yeah, I think at this juncture, Garcia Prograis would be an interesting fight.
Hey, we haven't done this show in a while, and I forgot the last week and a half to look up Aragon Garcia. He actually has a comment about this fight, if you want to hear it.
Oh God, I'd love to. He's the best rider in the business. Why wouldn't I?
Oh, we are actually saying that with all of our tongues in our cheeks. Prograis was one of the fighters that was offered to fight Mikey for his fight on February the 29th. But Mikey chose Vargas to fight. Mikey wanted someone that fights at welterweight so that he could show the boxing world that he's a legitimate contender at 147. More importantly, Mikey wanted to show that he deserves to share the ring with Manny Pacquiao. It was obvious how good Mikey looked that night that he has earned that shot.
Bravo. No, I mean, the wordplay, I mean, I'm almost in tears how, just eloquent that is. I mean, I'm almost speechless. I mean, that's fantastic. No, I mean, I think the Garcia last name is probably means that he's related to Robert Garcia. I don't know, man. He says a lot of really nice things about.
I mean,
or Mikey Garcia. Yeah, and we've been following this guy's work for years. I mean, he's got some bias there, but no, I mean, Garcia is not an elite level operator. He's not ever going to hang with a guy like Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence. He's not that good. I mean, we already saw the Errol Spence thing. Does he do better against a guy like Terrence Crawford? No. Does he beat a guy like Danny Garcia? Sean Porter, Keith Thurman? I don't think he's on that level. But Manny Pacquiao is a bit more palatable for him just because Pacquiao is naturally smaller, so that gives him some sort of chance, right? I mean, it's like, could Pacquiao run into a big right hand from Garcia and that ends things? Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, Pacquiao's 41. You never know when he's, really going to especially because his layoff is going to be significant. I mean, I know he's been doing this all his life, but, he's got senator duties and all sorts of other stuff that he's doing. He's 41. You never know when he's really going to hit a wall. So, yeah, it's possible Garcia beats Pacquiao, but to me, that doesn't mean, Garcia is an elite level operator. We'd have to see what version of Pacquiao we're getting there. But I'd like to see Garcia. I mean, I wish Garcia would have stayed at 135 and fought Lomachenko, but, that seems like a pipe dream now. So, yeah.
All right, hold your horses because there's been a Don King sighting, and I wasn't planning on bringing this up. It's not in the headline, but this is something that I think really needs to be talked about. It's going to happen, it looks like, because Don King has won the purse bid on Monday to stage the heavyweight championship contest between WBA regular champion Manuel Char and interim WBC belt holder Trevor Bryan. King is the promoter of Bryan. He won the purse bid with a $2 million bid, which that's usually the going rate for a heavyweight title fight. And he easily outbid the next highest offer, which was 25 cents from Jeremiah.
I tried, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, we thought you'd get it at 25, but it ended up being more than a quarter. Now, the prospective date that King wants to stage this Ali Frazier epic of Chara versus Bryan is on May 23rd or 30th. ESPN is saying that they are the potential places for the fight. So if that doesn't make you lose respect for ESPN, I don't know what will. Now, there are three possible places Don King wants to put this fight: the Middle East,
Manila.
Saudi Arabia, or Qatar, the Congo, or Las Vegas.
Yeah, Zaire. Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think? The Middle
uh,
East, the Congo, or Jeremiah's backyard, which has plenty of seating available?
Yeah, yeah, lots of fold-out chairs available if anybody's interested. Yeah, this is an epic encounter. I mean, of all the heavyweight fights that have been lined up recently, the White Povetkin, Pulev Joshua, sorry, Joshua Pulev, I should, Fury Wilder 3. I feel like I'm missing one. Oh yeah, Usyk Chisora. Of all the ones that have been made, this has got to be the one that I'm most excited about. I mean, I mean, a title unification fight, and I think you got it wrong there. I think Trevor Bryan is the interim WBA
Well,
title
it
holder. If I'm
says
not
WBC. I don't know. So
okay, yeah, because again, what I've come to know is that Char is like the regular title holder, and Bryan is the interim title holder. And how the fuck you have more than one title holder in one division is fucking retarded. I mean, how do you have an interim WBA when there is no interim? Interim, again, just a quick history lesson. Interims were made for like war periods and stuff. When, Gus Lasenovich was going to World War II, Tony Zale was going, to fight for the war cause, and they had to put the crap on hold. That made some sense, right? And then when the guy got back, whoever was the number one guy in the division, they would fight each other. But how you have an interim when there is no interim makes no sense. And then you have a regular title. Again, that all stems from the Frezzo Kendo thing. And I actually think Frezzo Kendo is still ranked in the WBA's top 5, might be the top 10. I mean,
he
it's
should be. I
atrocious.
think he beat David Izon like in 2002.
Dude, well, yeah, I mean that performance was stellar. That in itself was a classic. I mean, you got to stick that up on the shelf and go back to that every 3 months or something. But no, man, it's like Frezzo Keno might be able to beat Manuel Char. Char tested positive too for a PD, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this guy was blasted. Not cold by Maris Breedis, a cruiserweight a few years ago. I mean, it's dumb. It's a joke. It's all politics. It's probably the WBA just doing Don King a favor. The fight's garbage. I don't give a crap who
Hey,
wins.
they're giving
Honestly,
Char $1.5 million and Bryan a half a million.
oh my god,
But
oh
hey,
my god.
before you
And
talk
remember,
shit about Manuel Char, this is a man who
oh fuck.
he lost to Alexander Povetkin, but it was just by a knockout. He beat Michael Grant a few years ago. That's a good win because Michael Grant, 12 years before that, fought for the heavyweight title. Juan Duapas. I mean, he went the distance with Duapas and lost a close decision. He lost to cruiserweight Maurice Breedis by knockout. And then he beat Sefer Seferi, but he dominated that fight by unanimous decision. And then to win the vacant WBA World Heavyweight title, he won a decision over Alexander Ustinov, and that was in 2017.
Well, you've really sold me there. And to be honest with you, you sound a bit like some of these Deontay Wilder fans. I mean, just the mental gymnastics you have to do to try to arrive at the conclusion you want. It's hey, good job, Mike. I mean, you almost sold me there, but no, I mean, Char's.
Hey, but Bryan is a knockout artist. He's undefeated. He's 20-0 with 14 knockouts. He knocked out B.J. Flores in his last fight, and that was just 2 years ago. And I mean, he won a decision against Galen Brown. I mean, he beat the destructive Derek Rossi by unanimous decision. He beat Stacey Frazier, who was 16-16.
Holy hell.
Stacey Frazier is Joe Frazier's great granddaughter, I think. Elisier Castillo, 10 years after Castillo had fought last, he dominated that, won a unanimous decision. And if you look at him, his 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. I mean, there are times where he ran off like knockout victories over a guy that was 2-17, won a unanimous decision against a guy that was 6-12, and followed that up with a knockout, convincing knockout against Sandy Antonio Soto, who I think is Clarissa Shields' next opponent.
Holy hell, man! I think these names, besides the guy, the nameless guys you're talking about with the losing records, I mean, you're like bringing us down a 1990s, 2000s trip down memory lane. I mean, Eliezer Castillo, Michael Grant, what the Derek Rossi? I mean, Rossi. I guess Rossi is a bit more relevant because I think he even fought Anthony Joshua, if I'm not mistaken. But that was real early in Joshua's career, dude. I'm surprised some of these guys are even still fighting. I mean, dude, is Oliver McCall the first defense of this title unification?
No,
he's still
he's
active, dude. This
dangerous.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, he still hasn't been knocked out, so it might be right.
All right, let's get to a serious fight. Alexander Povetkin, Dillian White, May 2nd. This, I think, is a huge fight for White because Povetkin, I think, has shown signs of slippage. But I think for White to be considered in this Fury-Joshua Wilder sweepstakes, he needs to take care of Povetkin, and he needs to do it convincingly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, White is a guy who's, I've heard, maybe he didn't want Luis Ortiz. I've heard that. I don't know. I'm not doing backdoor deals. I don't like engaging that sort of stuff, because there's a lot of politics involved. And, one person may look at it as an outright duck. One person may say, hey, it's just matchroom infighting or something like that. I don't know. But this is a good quality matchup. Povetkin had a draw with Michael Hunter. That was a good close fight to me. I mean, I thought Hunter faded down the stretch. I thought you could go either way with that one. And Hunter is a tough styles matchup for a lot of heavyweights because he's a bit smaller. He's a little quicker. And I think he's shown that he's actually pretty good. I mean, he gave Usyk a surprisingly tough test. Not to say that Usyk didn't win. Clearly he did, but I didn't think a lot of people were surprised at how well he did because I think he only had 11 fights going into that, if I'm not mistaken. But these are two legitimate top 10 guys going at it, and the winner just gets a bit closer to whoever's holding that alphabet trinket, the WBC title. That's currently Tyson Fury. It looks like it's likely going to be Tyson Fury for a little while now, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if White goes out there and knocks Povetkin out, if it's a fun fight, hopefully, this is much higher quality than Manuel Charr and Trevor Bryan. Actually, it brings me to the Povetkin knockout over Manuel Charr. You guys need to go, YouTube that, look at that, because Povetkin smeared him across the canvas, like spread him like butter over toast. I mean, it was beautiful. But yeah, I'm just hoping it's a good fight. I mean, White should be favored to win here. He's got to, as much as I like Povetkin, he's got to hit a wall sooner or later. He's been in a bunch of wars. He's been stopped once, but he's taken a good amount of punches. I know he keeps himself in shape and that, he shows up each and every time, but he's like 40. I don't know if he's going to be 41 come fight night. But it's like White's got to be favored there, and he's got to win if he wants to achieve, what he thinks he can accomplish. And it would look good, at least for Fury, if he fights Joshua, and that would be some alphabet soup unification fight, and then that person could fight Dillian White. And that would be another big domestic showdown. So it looks like there's a lot of money involved if Dillian White wins. It's a good scrap, man. I like it.
All right. David says, Dillian versus Povetkin. Dillian has to be really careful up to the 6th round. If he jabs, then he will break down the Russian as he tires. But if he tries to stand and meet him in the middle, then DW could be risking it all.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Povetkin is still a quality operator. You still got to be careful. I mean, you watch the Michael Hunt. I mean, you look at Anthony Joshua. I think the Anthony Joshua win over Povetkin, it's not quite as good as I had thought initially because Povetkin looks more faded than I thought. I mean, just watching him against some of these guys, he's just not pulling the trigger like he used to. But yeah, Povetkin is still dangerous. He's got excellent technique. He's still crafty, and all it takes is one. Who was it? I can't remember who it was that Steve Canton or somebody, but they like held the mitts for him or something. They said he's got bricks in his gloves. So yeah, it's a dangerous fight. And if
Hey, if
Povetkin
he
wins
ever
that,
beats Deontay Wilder, the fact that you just said that, it'll be all over the place that Jeremiah Preisser confirms that Dillian White cheated because or Povetkin cheated because he had bricks in his gloves.
yeah, they're gonna run little clips of this show like you see, no, it's a. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, with some of these guys, they're willing to go to great lengths to try and fabricate stuff. But yeah, I mean, the dude can hit. I mean, he's going to be dangerous, and he's a guy who can go 12 rounds too. He's one of the few. And again, at 40 plus, it's going to be a lot harder for him. And Dillian White didn't look very good against Marius Vach. I expect him to be significantly lighter, a little bit sharper. He's going to stick behind the jab. It's going to be tough. I'm going to favor White here, but you know, if Pavet, I mean, what a cherry on top of a long, lengthy resume would be for Povetkin to win that fight, because that dude's been around for a long time.
Yes, it is. And would he get a title shot then?
He would, because this, I think even the WBC, because again, I hate all this alphabet soup nonsense.
Well, I think it's
Mike,
going to be tied up between Joshua Wilder and Fury. Well, it's going to be tied up with Wilder until July when he gets knocked the hell out. But then you're probably going to have a 2 or 3 fight series with Fury and Joshua. And by the time he gets a chance, he'll be 57 years old.
Yeah, maybe. I know Tyson, again, it's always hard to say, and maybe we should take Tyson Fury at his word a little bit more, because he said he was going to knock Wilder out. But he said that he only wants 3 more fights, and then he wants to be done. So the Wilder trilogy would represent 1. A Dillian White / Povetkin fight would represent 2, and then maybe the Joshua fight next year, or if they do the Joshua fight in December, that would be 3. Maybe he just does that. I mean, again, if it's Dillian White, he would make big money doing that, and it would be a little bit easier than Anthony Joshua. But imagine if that was Povetkin. I mean, that would be, again, that would be a great thing for him. I don't think he could handle Fury. I mean, I think it'd be a big mismatch. But again, it'd be a nice cherry on top of his long resume.
All right, Jeremiah. Anything else we want to discuss?
No, I think we've just about covered everything. I mean, that's pretty much everything that's been in the news besides the coronavirus.
Okay. What do you think about the coronavirus? Does this mean Fury and Wilder and fight in front of no crowd? Which means Deontay Wilder will still have the same amount of fans that he had in the first and second fight.
Yeah, just about.
That was mean.
Be careful. Be careful though. Be careful. Some people might interpret that wrong, and they might use this clip down the road. We might be lumped in with Michael Montero and a few other guys. You got to be careful with that stuff.
You know what? Go for it. All right.
Yeah.
Because from what I've seen, the only way Deontay Wilder fans make money is to make these stupid ass videos where they can barely speak English. I saw one smoking weed while he was making his video. That to me always screams the utmost professionalism, and I would say the only way these guys really make any money is by the numbnuts that watch the videos, and then they get paid by YouTube 1 cent for every 3 million views.
Yeah, well, and some of them have actually been eliminated from, like, some of them had actually, I don't, maybe Dante's Boxing Nation. I don't know if he's involved in that. I don't know if he's part of that community. Again, I don't pay attention, man. I only listen to stuff that I care about, stuff that's insightful, stuff you're going to gain real knowledge from. And those channels, those channels don't provide it. But I know that I know at least one of them has been kicked. I think they got credentials, and now they no longer do. I'm not exactly sure what channel it is, but some of these guys have actually been so unprofessional that they no longer have access to ringside seats.
They shouldn't either.
No.
They really shouldn't. I mean, I've covered these events where a lot of these guys are at, and really, they usually don't even have a laptop. They just take their phone, they talk some shit into it, and that's about it. And it's really sad. And I'm not going to say who one of them is, but he was so damn fat that he took up like a seat and a half. I could have sat on his lap because I damn near had to.
Yeah,
was it right next to me?
Right next to me.
Yeah, he's next to everybody. He's so big.
Yeah. Are you playing his groovy tunes right now? I can hear some music in the background.
Yeah. And plus, he has some really ugly women half naked that were sitting there. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know what
and
channel
Floyd
that is.
Mayweather wants to train Deontay Wilder for July the 18th. That could be a game changer.
Oh, dude. I mean that is. I mean that's really a really interesting thing because Floyd has obviously shown a real eye for talent. That's why so many. That's why so many of his
Well, you
guys
know
are
what?
getting.
If he lets
Yeah.
Floyd train him, they'll immediately pull out of that fight and wait for the Manuel Charr, Trevor Bryant winner.
Yeah. Right. Hey, can you turn that crap off in the background? I can hear that shit. I can hear that crap. But yeah, well, I mean, you know how it would go? It would go about as well as Ricky Hatton training with Floyd Mayweather Sr. I mean, you're directing their attention like when you have guys like Ricky Hatton and especially Deontay Wilder, who doesn't have anywhere close to the footwork Ricky Hatton had. I mean, I know Ricky Hatton isn't, seen as like Willie Pep or anything, but he had damn good footwork. I mean, just go look at some of his fights and how he's able to change, angles and, dig to the pit of the stomach. I mean, he was an excellent body puncher because of his footwork. You're not going to do anything with Deontay Wilder like that. I mean, when you have somebody like Wilder, when you have somebody like Hatton, you just got to double down on their strengths. I mean, sometimes they kid themselves, think they can do this and do that, but you just need to double down on what he's good at and see if you can make the most out of it. No, it's kind of like John said, really. You just got to get him lighter, get him more active and just let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Well, the chips are going to fall on the ground, I think, this time, and the chips will look like Deontay Wilder.
That's what I'm thinking.
But I can't wait to see it either.
Yeah, well, since it's July, we won't have to wait long, so I'm happy.
Yeah, we won't. And it looks like, I think the only way he could pull this off is if he goes, and unfortunately, Apollo Creed died. But if you remember, it was kind of the same thing that happened to Rocky Balboa in Rocky 3. He tried to meet power with power against a guy that was stronger than him, so he went and he got Apollo Creed, the old ex-heavyweight champion, and Creed ran on the beach with him until Balboa got even faster, and Balboa turned into a boxer, because in the movies is the only kind of place that shit ever happens.
Yeah, it does. I know people say like, oh well, Gotti, like Gotti always had good natural ability. Wilder never had that. Again, I use the example, and I think it's pertinent. Like a guy like Sergey Kovalev, who was a real big puncher at 175. He came up through the Russian system where they build you from the ground up. I mean, you can't make it as a high level in Russia, without like coming up through the amateur system without a good base, without good fundamentals. So again, he could boil it down, stick to the ones, stick to the 1-2s. Wilder he can't do that. He is what he is. He's 34. We know what we have now, and again, I'm happy for that because we've been calling it.
Yeah, we had our guy Thomas Triber on last night, so we didn't talk about the fights over the weekend. I just wanted to bring up one fight, and it's not the Mikey Garcia, Jesse Vargas thing. I don't care about that. But the fight that impressed me was Martinez and Harris. And number one, I think Harris, if he was stronger, would have won the fight. I mean, if he could hit a little bit harder. I mean, Harris was really impressive in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy for Harris because I didn't expect that kind of performance. I didn't think Jay Harris was on the level of Charlie Edwards, and Edwards got battered by Martinez. I know technically I think it's a no contest, but and that was probably a WBC favorite too. But yeah, Harris his footwork was pretty good. He wasn't given a lot of lateral movement, but he was pretty quick going in and out. He stood there and he fired a little bit. He connected with some hard shots on Martinez, and like you say, if he could crack, that fight might have turned out a little bit different. But but I don't know. I mean, of course, if Harris could have cracked, maybe Martinez fights a bit more cautiously. I don't know. I think there was a big levels gap there, even though Harris was competitive. It just seemed like he showed up and gave the best effort he possibly could. But yeah, it was a damn good fight. I was impressed, and the only thing I want to see now is I'd like to see Harris get a big domestic showdown. Like, I don't think Charlie Edwards, Edwards has moved up, and I know he got Paddy Barnes, which isn't, that's Ireland and no, I
He's
know.
too
I'm
good
just,
for him too. I like the Harris kid. I mean, you got to figure Martinez is going to grow out of the weight too. When he grows out of the weight, Harris got a chance to be the flyweight champion.
Well, I don't think he's that good. I think that was a one-off performance. I need to see more out of him before I'm convinced otherwise. But Martinez has to fight the best at 112. He's got to. I mean, I've heard they contact how do you say the last name? Methylane. They've contacted him. I'd like to see him fight Delakian. In fact, I'd like to see him fight Methylane and then Delakian, so I know who the man at 112 is. These little guys get too many passes for not fighting the best competition, but let's just hope. Let's hope that they finally make these big fights.
All right. Well, I want to give Bob Day a little shout out too, because he told me beforehand, and I think he said it for everybody on Facebook, but we talked about it a little bit before the fight, that he thought Harris was a live dog in that fight, and he was. I like Harris. I know you don't like him, but I also know that you hate basically anything that's British. So.
No, I don't. I'm British. Damn it! I mean,
you're not British.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much the Union Jack flag. Yeah, that's true. But if you look at my DNA results, I mean, I'm pretty much the Union Jack flag. But I mean, Bob Day was also, again, he's a contributor. He's been doing it for years. We appreciate that. Jay Harris was a Welshman too. I'm not saying Jay Harris is not a good fighter. We've seen examples like that where fringe contenders have one-off examples where they're good against somebody who's really good. I don't know, like Pat Caldell, versus Salvador Sanchez or something. Maybe that's a bad example. That's just the quickest one I could think of. All I'm saying is sometimes you have fringe contenders who just match up good stylistically with guys, and then they're just kind of like fringe guys after that. I don't know. I just want to see more out of him before I'm convinced that he's a real player.
Pat Caldell. Who would have ever thought we'd have talked about that? But Caldell, if I remember right, did beat Roberto Castanone, who was a pretty good fighter.
Yeah, I mean, he ended up getting butchered by Azuma Nelson, but Caldell was he was a good fighter though. I mean, he was kind of like an awkward boxer, could move pretty well. That's actually I don't know. That's probably why I thought of him first.
I think Pat Caldell
when I saw Jay Harris.
Is actually a decent facsimile. Put it like that. Because I think Caldell was a good fighter. His style is what gave Salvador Sanchez trouble. And if you remember, when he fought Sanchez, that was a split decision.
Yeah, and I did watch it. I did think Sanchez won, but yeah, I mean, he was just an awkward kind of guy. I mean, but he was a good boxer, good footwork, and Sanchez, he kept coming at him. I mean, Sanchez seemed almost impervious to fatigue. He was an incredible fighter, but yeah, I mean, Caldell was good. Stuck behind the jab, stuck, fundamentals. Good fighter, but again, sometimes that's what I'm saying is like sometimes stylistically you match up good with a guy who's really good. Sometimes you don't. Again, like he got a split decision with Sanchez, and then he gets butchered by Azuma Nelson, but most people think Sanchez is better than Azuma Nelson. Obviously he did beat him when he was green, but
the thing about that is I don't know, because he was green as hell the first time he fought Sanchez, and him was an absolute war. I wish, obviously, that he wouldn't have died at the age of 24. I would have liked to have seen that fight at age 26 or 27 in a rematch just to see what would have happened.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I know we've even talked about this in the past. I mean, and again, Sanchez is obviously a great fighter. We all acknowledge that. But sometimes sometimes these guys are put on a pedestal like they can't be beat. It's like Wilfredo Gomez at 122. People act like nobody in history is going to beat him. Sanchez at 126. It's like he's one of those guys that very few. When you do hypothetical head-to-heads, almost nobody beats Sanchez except maybe Willie Pep, like the cream of the crop. And dude, like you said, Nelson was green going into that fight. And I've heard this dissected many ways.
Hey, but how about this? I also think Salvador Sanchez, and he struggled with a lot of guys that were kind of in the Cowdell area, which they're
Yeah,
top 10, they're
Patrick
good
Ford.
fighters. But yeah, but I think this. I think you saw it with the Danny Little Red Lopez fight, who am I going to say, Wilfredo Gomez. I think that he was a guy that when the level of competition stepped up, he just kind of went off the charts with it. I think we're seeing that with Tyson Fury also.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, and it's struggle. I struggle to tease it out because part of me thinks that that's probably right, but part of it might also be that Sanchez just had a bit of a problem with certain styles. I mean, most people have issues with boxer movers. I mean, because most people don't fight like that. There's very few guys who are constantly moving. So part of me thinks that boxer movers gave him a little bit of trouble as well. Even though Gomez was a pretty good boxer puncher, his footwork was pretty good, and Sanchez was able to track him down. But Gomez fought a little bit in that too. There was a little bit of pride there. But I mean the Nelson Sanchez rematch. Dude, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if Nelson would have won. He would have had more experience, and this is the way some people go with it. They're like, "Oh, well, Sanchez wasn't at his peak. He probably would have gotten better too." Well, Nelson also showed up better in rematches. I think it would have been an incredible fight. I would have loved to have seen it. I mean, it's a hard one to call, but it would have been a wonderful fight too.
Well, I think it's possible that Salvador Sanchez had already reached his peak.
I think so too. I mean, when I looked at his career, I didn't really see him getting any better. And again, people are like, "Oh, well, he was young." Yeah, but the thing about it
He
is,
wasn't that young though, because I mean he turned professional in like 1975, and that was what 8 years, 7 or 8 years before he died. So he turned pro when he was like 16 years old. He had 43 fights, and I mean if you look at, I think after Cowdell he had trouble with Rocky Garcia. Hell, if I remember right, he fought, I think it was a non-title fight against Nicky Perez, had trouble. Juan Laporte gave him trouble, but Juan Laporte gave everybody trouble. Pat Ford, who you talked about, Ruben Castillo, the two Danny Little Red Lopez fights. Um, so when I look at it, I think he fought an awful lot of fights for those 8 years, and he fought a lot of tough 15-round fights. So once again, no, I still think it's possible that when you fight the rematch, Sanchez is so great that maybe he could have done something different and won the fight easier. But I think also what we found out from Azuma Nelson was an all-time great too, and it's very possible that maybe Nelson would have gotten a hell of a lot better too and been able to adjust off of that. Because when he went in to fight Sanchez, I don't think he'd fought anybody even remotely a top 10 contender.
yeah, I don't think anything close.
No. And let's see. Let me pull up his box rec. All right, he knocked out Gomez in '84. That was for the, yeah. So he'd have been around at featherweight for a few more years. He knocked out Pat Cowdell. Cowdell was older then. He went life and death with Marcus Villasana, which I remember seeing that fight at the Forum in Inglewood. That was a great fight.
He was a
So
good. Villasano was a tough cookie.
he's a damn good fighter. And then he beat Villasana convincingly the second fight. And I don't know. I'm just going off of memory now. I'm looking at box rec before I open my mouth, but it seemed like he was a guy that more often than not in rematches was even better than what he was in the first fight.
Yeah, yeah. You look at the Fennec fight as an example too, but yeah, I mean,
He
I
fought
think it.
Pernell Whitaker tough.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was one of those fights that was competitive, but Whitaker won clearly. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's crazy to come down on either side of that argument and say,
Hey,
hey,
I'm looking
Nelson
at
would
the
have won a
cards on the
decision.
Whitaker fight, and I don't really remember the fight that well, but it was like 115, 113, 116, 114, and then 116, 111.
Yeah, I think I know I watched Pernell Whitaker's career from front to back a few years back, and I think I had it 8-4. But it was competitive again, and I think Nelson was a little bit older at that time too. But again, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think you could say reasonably that Azuma Nelson would have won the rematch with Sanchez. I think that's fair. If somebody says that, I don't think it's crazy. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I think there are a number of guys at 126 who could have beaten Salvador Sanchez as good as he was.
Yeah, I don't think there is that many of them.
Well, I mean, like I don't think there's many. Well, but again, you don't know. I mean, here's the thing: is like
That's why I
if
said I
maybe
think. I didn't say I know.
I know. And all I'm saying is if maybe I'm right and he struggles with boxers, again, you look at the Ruben Castillo fight, Pat Caldell, Willie Pep, Sandy Sadler, right? Tony Canzaneri at 126. Yeah, maybe. Again, I don't know about Abe Attell. I'm not that up on him, so I'm not.
He had
I
something
can't
to do
say a
with
lot.
fixing the 1919 World Series, though.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't he friends with? He was friends with one of the guys who played,
He,
right?
no, he
I don't
was
know much about it.
friends. He was friends with the who was the guy that set up to fix Charlie? No, that was Comiskey.
Well,
Who the hell
I
was it? It was one of the mob bosses because he worked for the mob boss and he helped fix races at the horse track, if I remember right. Frankie, Pinky, or hold on.
I know.
Arnold Rothstein. Arnold Rothstein
Okay.
was the guy that headed up the gambling syndicate. And, I mean, he wasn't a big part of it. He was just kind of there, but he was involved when it went on. But
Okay.
I think he was
All
in
right.
the movie
Yeah.
Eight Men Out, too. Well, not Abe Attell, because obviously he was dead by the time the movie came out, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, but yeah, I look at some of these guys like Arguello versus Sanchez would have been really interesting. Kid Chocolate, Johnny Dundee, Johnny Kilbane, Terry McGovern. My God, that would have been a war. What about like Vicente Saldivar versus Sanchez? That to me, that's a classic.
Well, how about this, though? I think
Again,
if you take almost any class, the top 10 guys, I mean, whichever guy you're picking, he's going to have trouble with the other 9 because they're all-time greats. That's why we can
yeah,
never be real sure about it because we don't know how to adjust each other. But if we could have the top 10, you'd have the greatest of all time then because the guys that got it out at the end are the difference. And I think Salvador Sanchez, more often than not, would get it out in the end.
yeah, you might be right. Again, I don't know. That's tough for me because there are a lot of gutsy dudes when you look at the all-time ranking. That's one of the things that kind of separated them from the other fellas. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yep. But all right, Jeremiah, you want to tell people where they can follow you on the old Twitter and whatever else you want to plug?
Yeah, you can follow me at Griffos Hanky on Twitter. You can just go to Facebook, type in my name. Follow that. That's my preferred social media platform. I just like long form conversations as opposed to like the small character limit. You can follow us at TGT and Boxing as well. The Grueling Truth Twitter. I mean, just look up my name and anywhere you find me, go ahead and follow me, message me, send me a friend request, whatever.
Yeah, and it would help if you guys could go on iHeart or iTunes or YouTube and comment, like the videos, give us a rating. We are also now on Rockfin, which is $9.99 a month, but you get more than just our premium content. You get premium content from hundreds upon thousands of other creators, and it's not like YouTube where you get censored. So you go on there, you don't have to worry. Everybody that's doing those videos is getting paid. They're getting paid from when you put in that $9.99. Also, there's articles on there. You go to our site, you'll find all kind of free stuff, and then we will have premium content also. So make sure you check that out. Follow me at Grueling Truth. Make sure you follow at TGT Boxing. Me and Jeremiah will be back at 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And don't forget, tomorrow at 1, we'll have the NFL show with myself, Sam Teets, and Anthony Servino. So for now, for Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.